Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. And we've had some requests asking how we rig up our long poles for vertical jigging crappie. Some call it sniping crappie, but it's really whenever you're targeting an individual fish, using a long pole to reach out there and get it, and using your bait to target that individual fish. We're going to show you what kind of setup we have and go through a couple different scenarios, things like that. First off, talking about the gear we're using for this here, using a 14-foot Lews Wally Marshall Classic Signature Series. This is my favorite of the long poles, and by long poles I mean anything that is 13 foot or longer. I feel that your 12 footers, your 10, 11, and 12s, those are your kind of your mid-range game. You know, your casting poles being your 7.5s and unders. I guess there's some people that cast with 8, 9s. I haven't used those. I feel like that the 10-footer is as balanced as you can really get whenever you're using that, but we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later in a different video. But for this video, we're using the 14-footer. We have it rigged up with a Lews speed spool. I think these usually target around $99. I think it is the perfect reel for this setup. I like using the 6:8:1 ratio just because it's a little lower geared, and it always seems really smooth. It just seems to work really well with this setup. I've used this reel for probably 2, 3, maybe 4 years. I've used it for a while and never had any problems with it. So talking about the line, I use the Strike King Tour grade premium strength braided line. For this scenario, I like to use 15 pound. I feel like with 15 pound, I don't ever have any problem with breaks. It's got plenty of strength to boat flip any fish that you're gonna have on this rod. And it comes off of the spool really well. It's thin in diameter, so whenever you're cutting through the water, chasing fish, having to do that, you just don't have any problems with it. I feel like the 15 pound is really the sweet spot for the vertical jigging game. And the way that I do this, I feel like this gives you, or the way that I'm gonna rig this up, and I feel like this is the best for sensitivity and being able to feel, is just a basic Carolina rig. And I like using the tungsten weights just because they're small in diameter, so they cut through the water a little bit better. With the tungsten, you don't ever have to worry about the ends getting rough and cutting through your line. So I just rig it up, and it's just a simple Carolina rig for anybody that's bass fished. Put the weight onto the braid. And it's extremely cold. It has been for several days. And really, typically that's when you're doing this kind of fishing, is when it gets cold. When that water temp is dropping down below 50, those fish, they're, and you can definitely, don't get me wrong, you can always vertical jig whenever fish are covered up on structure. Be very successful with it. I typically like to cast to them, but there's times whenever the wind or different things, different scenarios, it may be better to vertical jig them. But definitely when it gets cold, it's cold outside, like I said, that water temperature gets below 45 degrees, you'll start seeing these fish, they'll transition, they'll start getting pneumatic, getting off by themselves, and I'm just simply tying a Palmer knot, this braid to swivel. Palmer, clip the excess off. And I think this is probably your, overall, this is the best way to rig it for being able to feel the fish, just everything overall, this is the best way to rig it, but it's not the quickest way to rig it. And we'll go through, maybe in another video, a quicker setup. Maybe you're more concerned with speed on the water, catching fish, as opposed to being concerned with, you know, trying to really just target individual big fish, or maybe tournament fishing. You know, if I'm tournament fishing, this is how I feel most confident in having my rig set up, that I'm going to be able to film and put fish in the boat. But what I'm going to do is, for this scenario, I'm going to go with a 12-pound leader. 12 pound, it's not overbearing, but you shouldn't be breaking off with 12 pound. If you tie your knots right and everything, you shouldn't have any problem with breaking off. So I'm just going to tie a 12-pound fluorocarbon leader to my swivel. And for this, I'm going to use a San Diego jam knot. And I'm going to use it double. First wet it. It's tight. And I'm going to bring off about 24 inches, because you can always go shorter, but you cannot make it longer. And that's one of the things about this setup, is as you change baits or change colors, different things, do different things, you're going to be shortening your leader every time, and eventually you're going to have to tie to your swivel, which is going to take time. You know, you're going to have a knot to the swivel, a knot to your hook, and it just takes time. So you've got this, and we're, you know, it's getting cold, it's big bait season. We're going to go with an 1/8 ounce jig head. Pink today. If that don't work, we'll be cutting it off, put something else on. And for this, I'm just going to use simple loop knot. So you go like you're going to tie a knot, slide it up on there, through the hole, give it 3 twists, and then a lock. And the reason why I do the loop knot is because it allows that bait to just pretty much pendulum there. The hook I'm using is a sausage head by Mr. Crappie, and as you can see, once you put that bait on there and it goes into the water column, it's going to set pretty much just vertical. It may have just a little bit, but you can see how that is if you'd had it tightened down on it, as it falls, it may cause it to be something different. But as you're moving, and I don't recommend jigging a lot, but if you're in the water and you do give it a little jig, it's going to move more naturally with that loop knot, as versus if you have a hard knot tied to it. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I hate this thing just sliding all over the place. So what I do is I take a Bullet Weights T-stop, I wet it, I send it through here, through the tungsten 1/2 ounce, and I just pretty much exclusively run a half ounce weight on this. I've used the 3/4 ounce, it feels too heavy. I've used the 3/8 ounce, it doesn't feel like the bait catches up with it enough. It seems like 1/2 ounce is the magic spot, so that's what I've been fishing with for years, and always seem to have good results with it. So I just stay with a 1/2 ounce weight above it. Cut them ends off, and then that just helps keep it there. And I can shorten this, I can lengthen it. I have run them out to 3 feet. which isn't bad whenever you're using a 1/8 ounce weight. But I also have run them as short, especially whenever you're getting into your water and you want to keep that bait close to it. I have run it as close as, that's probably about 12, 13 inches. So, but that's how we've got it set up. Like I said, this rod, it balances out really well. It you get away from the boat a little bit more, it gives you a little bit more range, but also that, you know, whenever you get closer, when those fish do get closer to the boat, you really have to choke up on it, but it does well with that. With this bait caster, which of course, right hand dominant, fish with my right hand, cast with my right hand. So anytime you're casting with your right hand, you should be reeling with your left hand. You should never cast it to switch it. People are going to disagree with me. There's going to be a lot of hate. They're going to say that a lot of people won championships switching, and they have, and to each their own, but it's wasted movement. And wasted movement is, to me, it's just wasted time. So here you are, you fish, if you're going to cast with your right hand, fish with your right hand, then have a left-handed reel. So with this here, I have the left-handed reel. As I'm fishing, I can thumb out, line there like that, reel it in, and I can control everything right here. Even with this being a 14-foot pole, this one here is well balanced out. Probably lighter than most any of the longer poles. It definitely balances better than any that I have felt that are 13 plus feet. And you know, I've used the 16 foot in this. I don't like it as well. You gain 2 extra feet, but it's heavier. It's gonna wear on you a lot quicker. This one here, it fishes really well. But I can fish like that all day. And of course, I'm gonna rest the butt of it. I'm gonna rest it right here. Gives it some leverage, and then I can reach out. I can tuck in. If I need to drop it in the water column, I've got this. If I need to bring it up, you can come over here to it, but I can literally take my finger and move it right here. And of course, I'm using the drag a little bit there, but when I'm sitting here like this, if I need to come up, I can engage it all with one hand, all while I'm driving the boat with the other hand. So this is the primary setup for fishing, especially doing this, like I said, sniping or long poling these fish. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and look at the other video. We will do one here real quick that shows you a little bit of a different way to set up. If you're just worried about going and catching fish and being able to change, maybe it's a day that you're scouting the lake or you're just trying to put a limit in the boat, we're going to show you how we rig up a pole for that too. So stay tuned. GoPro, stop capture.